All right, it looks like we're live on my end. I want to say hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are just 1 minute behind. I pride myself on being on time, but we are here and we are ready, and I am so excited about tonight's conversation. So before we jump into it, hello, my name is Nicole Denise, and I am an author, a life coach, a business strategist, a brand expert. I am also a multimedia journalist, and the name of my company is Indent Media. And under that media company, we have the Palm Beach Beat, which is what I'm mostly known for in Palm Beach County. And that is a urban online media outlet that actually highlights positive news that happens in Palm Beach County, specifically in the Black communities and minority communities. So from that space of wanting to share our stories from our perspectives and have a more positive outlook on the Black community in media, I've also created these forums that I have titled Protecting and Healing the Black Psyche. So last month we did one for Minority Mental Health Month, and it featured women, and we specifically talked to Black business women and entrepreneurs, and we talked about things like anxiety, depression, and some of the things that kind of happen behind closed doors as a Black woman and as a business owner. So I was like, you know what? We can't stop there. We cannot stop there. We have to bring the men into this conversation. But instead of just talking about, men and entrepreneurship and things like that, I said, you know what? I want to bring on men who have a perspective about what it is basically to be a Black man, and more specifically, a Black man in America, because everybody wants to know, like, what is going on between their ears? What are they thinking about? How do they feel? And, with media portrayals of men getting killed daily or jailed, or suicide rates are exploding, like to be a Black man. And hey, I can't answer that question because I don't have that experience. So I said, I'm going to invite some Black men onto this panel, and we're going to get this discussion started. So I'm going to say we have one more panelist. He's working on coming into the discussion. So when he pops in, we will just go ahead and continue with the flow as is. But first, I want to introduce who I do have in the room, and I'm going to read their bios quickly. So let me put their first picture up on the screen. So the first person we have is, and if I'm looking this way, it's because I'm reading their bio, is Montegus Jackson. And Montegus Jackson is a licensed mental health counselor who specializes in adolescent, adult, individual, couple, and family therapy. He serves in Palm Beach County and maintains his private practice, Starting Point Counseling Services, in Royal Palm Beach, Florida. With almost a decade of experience in the mental health, substance abuse, social services fields, he is experienced in many areas, which include relationship issues, at-risk youth, emotional disturbances, depression, anxiety, and substance addiction. Grew up in the military family, which required him to frequently move between countries and states when his father would be reassigned. And this lifestyle allowed Montegus to learn to adapt to both changing environment and relationships. So as an adolescent, he was the go-to person for reason for his friends and family. And that sounds so familiar because that was for all the answers. These qualities and traits drove him to study psychology in undergraduate school, and he graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology from Francis Marion University in 2003. And after graduating, he held several managerial positions in the fashion retail industry, but Montegus could no longer ignore his desire to serve his community in the capacity he knew he was capable of. So he decided to return to school to pursue a master's in mental health counseling. And in 2014, Montegus graduated from Walden University with his master's degree in mental health counseling. After receiving his master's, Montegus continued to gain experience. You will? I got you. But he continued to gain experience working as a clinical therapist in substance abuse facilities. I'm still getting feedback. There we go. In substance abuse facilities and juvenile detention centers. And in January of 2015, he added entrepreneurship to his resume by starting his own private practice, Starting Point Counseling Services. So with that, all his other accolades, we welcome Montegus Jackson. All right, so next up to bat, we have Devin Lewis Buchanan. Devin Lewis is the founder of Inspire Youth and the CEO. Okay, I don't know why. Will, are you unmuting yourself?
Oh.
Don't unmute yourself.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll let you know when to unmute yourself. Okay, so Devin Lewis Buchanan is the founder of Inspire Youth and CEO of Inspire Youth Mentoring Services, Inc. Devin Lewis Buchanan was raised in West Palm Beach, where he attended Suncoast High School. I went to Lakes, but that's okay. Devin received a scholarship to play football and attended the University of Louisiana Lafayette. Devin finished his career a 2-year starter and a team captain. After graduating with a degree in behavioral science, he was granted an opportunity to try out for the Oakland Raiders to pursue a lifelong dream of playing in the National Football League. Those plans were unexpectedly cut short, and he was forced to ask himself, what next? Through the process of recreating his identity from being just another athlete, Devin began working as an independent living specialist with children in the foster care system. His experience working alongside the Department of Children and Family, Beach County School Board, and the Boys and Girls Club of America have provided him a genuine ambition for servicing youth with life skills and will help them transition into independence and become self-sufficient. And Devin founded Inspire Youth to be an advocate in bridging the gap in communication between youth and adults. Prepare youth and young adults ages 10 to 22 who come from all different races, genders, disabilities, or diagnoses to be prepared educationally, emotionally, and mentally for adulthood. So welcome, Devin Lewis Buchanan. Last but definitely not least, we have Will Hicks, who popped in just in time. I'm happy to see him. Will Hicks is a Florida native, raised in Riviera Beach, and attended Suncoast High School. Again, I went to Lakes, but that's okay. He then attended Florida A&M University, all right, Rattlers, and graduated with a BS in Civil Engineering. After working several years for Sarasota County Engineering Department, he returned to Riviera Beach and currently works for the Department of Airports and Planning and Development. Hicks is also a general contractor and owner of Critical Path Construction. He has over 20 years experience in civil engineering and construction, primarily on public and commercial sector infrastructures. So that's great, that's wonderful, but this is why I invited Will to this conversation. Will is sharp as a tack when it comes to Black history and when it comes to knowing what it means and what the experience of Black people are. So that's why I invited him to this conversation. So with that, I want you guys to go ahead and unmute yourselves so we can get this conversation started. Everybody unmuted? All right, cool. Sounds like everybody's unmuted. So my first question is going to go to the room. And if you are playing, first of all, if you're playing the video, go ahead and mute the video. Don't mute yourself in here, but mute the video so I don't get feedback. Again, into the room. And the first question is, what is a man? And what is your definition of manhood? Then the follow-up question to that is, who taught you what it was to be a man and who it was? So anybody want to take that one? Don't all jump at once. I don't mind telling people.
All right. So you said the question is, what does it mean in our own perspective of what it is to be a man? I would say my definition is, or my interpretation of manhood is basically whatever you decide it is. For me, it's what I choose to be my code of ethics. Being responsible. Being somebody that's strong in their integrity. And just being trustworthy, being somebody that is reliable, and I said at all times just being true to myself. So I believe that's my interpretation of manhood.
Okay, and who taught you that? That's the follow-up question. Who taught you what it was to be a man, or what it is to be a man?
Yeah, it took me 27 years to learn what it is to be a man. I'm 27 years old and I'm still learning every day. But I was raised by a single mother who has 6 children, and there wasn't a lot of males, positive males that I could definitely go to and pick their brain about manhood and different things like that. It was just like a collaboration effort of coaches, different people along the way, television, just seeing certain things that I wanted to incorporate and just adding them to me, or added them to what I believe manhood was along the way. But it wasn't a specific, I don't think, a guideline that I said, I want to emulate this person. I think it was just over a course of time, just adding different pieces to the puzzle until, I could definitely go back and say, what am I comfortable with of, my direction of manhood.
Okay, and Montias, what about you? What is
Say that one more time. I can hear you all the way.
What is your definition of manhood? What does it mean to be a man?
For me, definitely what Devin said. I want to piggyback on that also. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your responsibilities. That's big. Being able to make sure that anybody in your family, your immediate family, children, for me, this is my children, my wife, are taken care of at all times. Being a provider, being someone that's very supportive, just taking care of your business, in whatever avenue that may be, whether it's at home, in the workplace, out in any type of activities you may be involved in, with your friends, just being reliable. It can also be a confidant. And that pretty much sum it up for me.
Okay. And who taught you that? Who taught you your definition of manhood, or where did you get that definition from?
I grew up with both parents in the house till the age of 14. I had a military father, so he was gone a lot. But I have an older brother, and we're 4 years apart. And mistakes he made through life, and seeing him grow up and go to the military, and then me taking my own path and going to college, and just having a good circle of friends and family, helped me through the process. And then also, as same thing Devin said, it's hard to 37, right? And I'm still learning every day what it is to be a man. Seeing my kids, just seeing their needs on a day-to-day basis, they teach me how to be a man. My wife, believe it or not, she teaches me how to be a better man. So I'm constantly learning, I'm evolving, and to sum it all up, I've had a lot of people in my life, and I think having good role models in your life, and also having people that may have not, may have made some bad decisions, helps you be a better man. So,
yeah.
That's my experience.
All right, and Will, go ahead, unmute yourself for me. Tell me your definition of manhood, and then who taught you that? You hear me? Can you unmute yourself, Will?
Okay. Say that again. I couldn't hear you.
Okay, unmute yourself. I'm saying, tell me your definition of manhood, and also who taught you that.
I didn't hear the second part of the question. I think you said, what is my definition of manhood?
Yes, and who taught you how to be a man?
Well, my definition of manhood, I'm gonna go from a spiritual, more of a spiritual perspective, and say that as I think of manhood, is not an individual thing. It's more of a we as a group, as a people. So when I look upon the definition of a man, it's not necessarily what Webster says. It's more so what we as a culture say, and what our culture needs. You know what I mean? because what we've said over the years have varied. At one point we said, you know, if you could provide, but the government provides money. And they say food, but government provides food. So it has to be, to me, something above and beyond what another culture or something that can do for you. It has to be specific to your culture, your people. And so to me, like when a child is born to that neighborhood or whatever, it's either a blessing or it's either a disgrace. And so me looking at manhood is something that someone that can give back to my community, to my people. And I see my family as a connection as a whole to that community and as the people, because I'm a reflection of all those people that came before me, like my grandfather, my grandma, whether I knew them or not. I wouldn't be in a position if those before me didn't do what they did. You know what I mean? So that's how I see what a man is, or think of myself as a man, as a person that contributes or gives something back, not only to my family, but the community as well.
Okay, and who taught you that definition?
Excuse me?
Who taught you that definition, or where did you get that definition from?
Well, that definition was derived over a period of time. Because as I grew up, I didn't only grow up by myself. I grew up with the kids around me, good and bad. And so as your mother wants you to, you know, play with the good kids, but you also mingle with the bad kids, and you see good families and you see bad families, and all that develops you as a person. So it's not just my family that develops me, it's my community that developed me as well. And so I think as you develop the community, you develop the man, because it's not an individual aspect, it's a group aspect. And so in doing so, I think the other aspect of being a man or a woman is learning who you are as a person. And to me, that's once you learn who you are as a person, then you will become to understand God and yourself and your community, and you will see it as one body as opposed to an individual body.
Okay. I want to pose this to the room. So each of you have your definition of, hold on, let me read. Yeah. So each of you have your definition of what it is to be a man. You said you have your definition of this is manhood, this is how I learned it. But now I'm going to add an element to that question. To be a Black man, and specifically in America. And I'm saying opposed to an Asian man or a Caucasian man or a Hispanic man. Like, what is the difference, or what is the difference in your experience as a Black man? So anybody can go ahead into that. Just unmute yourselves when you're ready to talk.
I'll go first. I can't speak on the experience of any other race or nationality or anything like that. But I know for me, growing up, you know, being in a military family, I moved a lot. So I was around a lot of different people, you know, and I was able to meet a lot of different races and nationalities at a young age. So I've been comfortable, you know, just being in my own skin, seeing the just different people around me. And but then as I got older, and I really started to realize that, you know, being Black could be difficult, when I probably hit my early 20s. You know, I wasn't into a lot of bad stuff growing up, you know, like my brother took that role in the sense of kind of just showing me what not to do. But as I got older and started getting on in my life and I moved to Atlanta, that's when I really started to realize that it's a lot of profiling, you know, going on. I can remember one instant where I was myself and my best friend, we were coming from Walmart. It was like 11, 12 at night. And we had his son with us, and the cop rode around and then just stopped behind us and was like, "What are you guys doing?" Really nice car at the time. And he just started questioning me and just asked me all, you know, like, "Where's your registration?" And just like, I felt so violated. And that was probably the first time I really was like, yo, it's real out here, you know, like we're just coming from Walmart. We weren't dressed any particular way to be profiled, in my opinion. It just was, you know, I don't know if it's the part of town we were on, but, you know, that experience really opened my eyes. And so it just made me more aware of my surroundings, aware of places I needed to be, the type of people I needed to be associated with in certain parts of town. And it just, like I said, it helped my awareness. Now, you know, like I said, I'm 37 now, and, you know, I'm new to Florida. I don't see some of the stuff that I've seen in other places here, but I know it's here. And I, you know.
So would you say that?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You said realizing that you're a black man in your early 20s, awareness of your surroundings. So would you say that, in your opinion, would you say that other cultures don't have to be as aware as a black man?
I wouldn't say that realizing I was a black man. I knew that. It just, I didn't experience some of the things. If I did, I didn't recognize it. So until I was older, and that's one particular situation that really stands out. I'm pretty sure it was more, but that's one that really just sunk in with me.
Gotcha. Okay.
To answer your question, I think, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, to answer your question, I definitely think that, you know, being aware for me is very big. You know, just aware of my surroundings, aware of who I deal with. Never know when you're put in a situation where, being black, you're in a situation. So I think just being more aware is what I would, you know, what I would say for me.
Okay. Anybody else want to tell me what it is or what their experience has been as a black man? So not just as a man, but what does it mean to be a black man, and a black man specifically in America? Just unmute yourself and take it away.
Well, I mean, to speak from experience, like I said, it definitely is the awareness of when you, I guess you come to that realization that I guess the world doesn't look the same for you as it does for everybody else. And, you know, you can choose to look at the world, you know, through your eyes and you know, picture a world that you want to see. But it usually is an experience that draws you and lets you know that, you know, people look at you differently. And I said, I think we all have those experiences. I know, you know, for me, I grew up in a lot of areas in Palm Beach where, you know, I was kind of forced to live in certain areas. You know, my mom was on Section 8. There was a lot of us. And, you know, by nature, when you're living in those areas, you are, you know, living amongst a lot of diversity. You know, it's not just poor black people. You also see poor white people too, you know. And it wasn't just one of those, you know, just living in the environments that we were in. You know, we realized that the people that live in these environments carry themselves differently. And I believe that when we live in our own environments, that we carry ourselves differently when we live in that environment. So there's a lot of mimicking behavior, a lot of mirroring. And, you know, when I had the opportunity to leave Florida and go to college and go to Louisiana and actually, you know, go to like the real South, you know, growing up in West Palm, you think it's, you know, but when you really enter a place where it really is, you know, the South, you know, and the Confederate state. But I think that was my introduction into really knowing, you know, exactly where I stand in society. And you know, I was an athlete, of course.
What do you mean when you say where I stand?
I'm just saying that because I believe that there is a perceived hierarchy. You know, it is basically you know, we've been put on a standard that, you know, of the standard of hierarchy of how we fall into place as far as when you're deeming of in power or in charge.
Coming out. Where do you stand?
Where do I stand? I'm always at top. You know, I mean, like I said, circumstances don't create for me the reality that we live in. You know what I mean? I'm not going to look at a certain instance where somebody gets killed by police and put that in my mind that, you know, this can be my fate every day. I don't walk around and I don't perceive that, because that's not my reality. Until it happens to me, that's when it'll be my reality. I'm not saying that I don't walk around like it can't happen, but I can meet the fate any day to the hands by any man. So I don't walk around and don't, you know, live in my mind in a place where I'm always having to be aware that I'm black today. You know, that's never been my thinking. That, you know, hey, I'm black today. It might just, you know, things might not play out in my favor. You know, I don't believe that. But I also, like I said, I have to be aware of how I carry myself because I am a father as well. And you know what I mean? I am raising a son who is, you know, is black. And, you know, I want him to understand that, you know, where he stands in society is where he decides to stand. It's not where they place you, it's where you decide to stand. And I believe that's the importance of knowing, you know, who you are. And that goes back to just your definition of manhood.
Gotcha. Will, did you want to add anything on that subject as far as being a black man and what it means to you?
Repeat, say what it means to me to be a black man.
Yes, like what is black manhood versus, I guess, other cultures of manhood?
What it means to me to be a black man. It took me a while to kind of understand what it means to be a black man because we have so many bad definitions and misinformation and miseducation about the subject. In addition to the propaganda and everything we see on TV, the commercials, you know, the music videos and everything, you could get caught up into a world that really don't exist. You could get caught up into a fantasy land thinking you're something when you're really not. And you have nothing to weigh yourself against in this society to say that a black man is such and such, because no matter where you look around the world, we're always on the bottom of that chart. So the oppression we feel, the same oppression they feel in Africa, the same oppression they see in the Caribbean. So no matter, even if you travel, the black man is always on the bottom of that, and they always let a few go through. So it's not until I started to read history and understand history and understand myself and my place in the spiritual aspect of knowing God and myself and how everything worked together, because most of the things I didn't understand, I just went through and did what people told me I should do. And so in doing what I was told I should do, that's who I believe I was at that particular time. But when you start to understand who you are and everything that's surrounding you is guiding you to a place where you're not empowered, to where you're in a position of really a servitude. Get out and get a job and get out. And nobody tells you to get out and get a business. Nobody tells you to feel, you know, about yourself, where you could think for yourself, where you could be yourself. And so to the degree, for the most part of my life, I didn't know what it was to be a black man. It was the miseducated black man or the misinformed black man. And even with the correct information, we don't know how to apply it. Just like if you do a math problem, we all know the answers. But the thing is, can you show your body of work? Can you show how you get from A to B? Do you know the process? You see what I'm saying? And in understanding the process, you can produce results. But most of us learn how to get the fish. Even in the Bible, it says, if you give a man a fish, he can eat. But if you teach him how to fish, he can feed himself. And I think most of the information and things that we have don't teach us the process to how to feed ourselves. They just simply give us the fish. Because if you want to know something, all you have to do is go and look up on the internet. That's giving you the fish. If you go to school, you get a job that's giving you the fish. But if you understand the process of who you are, then you will know that you are powerful. Then you know that you are X, Y, Z. And so the lack that most of us feel, that we feel within ourselves, they couldn't sell us makeup to the thousands of black women who are already beautiful. They couldn't sell us the amount of cars and the amount of food that we do, because we feel we go to eat out, we're doing something that, you know, quote unquote, others with money can do. So the value we have placed upon ourselves over the years, which is through propaganda and other means and religion and things of that nature, it creates a false definition of what a man is. So I had to reach back and learn what my history. I had to reach back and relearn what God was, and relearn and throw out all the definitions that I heard before, which was a hard thing to do because I had to tell myself that I was inadequate to a degree. And once I started to redefine based on what I thought, then I learned who I was and what I was connected to. And then upon then, I had confidence and knew that I was powerful. And I don't have to believe in God. I can say I know God. You see what I'm saying? It's a difference in believing and knowing. And so if you want to go believing, that's a personal choice. But I'd rather know. And I'd rather live by wisdom and all the attributes that conceive power. And so I think a lot of people, especially as Black people, we give our purchasing power away. We give our spiritual power away. We give our labor away. We kind of sell our souls unknowingly. And so in doing so, we create false definitions. You know, I'm a diva and this and all these titles and a big car and this and that, not understanding who we are and what we represent. But the other side of the fence knows. And that's how they become rich. That's how they become powerful, off the backs of us.
Wow. Well, many things I'm just going to get into in this conversation. You talked about miseducation. I was going to ask you guys a question. And this is going to be, my next question is going to be for Montegus, because I believe I was saying that there are these pillars culturally that make up our identity as a person. So think about the pillars in the Black community culturally. I think about faith or religion education, and then community. Because we love to say, what's the quote? I'm forgetting it. It takes a village to raise a child, or it takes a village to. What happens when those pillars that you have based your foundation of your identity on are not stable in nature? Like, what happens to the human identity? Like Will said, he had to go back and he had to unlearn and let go of a lot of different definitions. So if you could shed some light on, like, psychologically, because I know from my own research, and I've come to know it as the dark night of the soul when you're talking about existentialism, nervous breakdown. But people can always also see that as their greatest spiritual awakening. So what would you give as some psychological information or background information about what happens when who you thought you were, according to these pillars, no longer is who you are? Hopefully that makes some sense. Unmute yourself, Montegus.
Yeah, you were going in and out. I didn't hear the last few words of what you said.
So I was saying, basically, what happens when the pillars that you base your life on culturally, faith, community, education, you realize that's not enough, and that's not really who you are. Like, psychologically, what is that call, and then how do we deal with that? Or how do you deal with that as a Black man?
Well, I mean, it's similar to what, like Will was saying, you have to know what your identity is, you know, and if you reality on something else, and, you know, like you said, the pillars in there not there, then yes, that can cause a lot of confusion in people's lives. And then hence what you said as far as like a nervous breakdown or something of that nature. But I think it goes back to just being able to find your identity in who you are as a person. And sometimes, like, you know, people around you looking at TV, just having all these false interpretations of what it is to be, since we're talking about men, just a man. Then when you get to a certain point in life and you realize, oh, that's not what it is to be a man, then you will have some problems. And in those problems, you can develop any, you know, type of mental illness. Most of the time, it could be something that's like a depression or something. And then it's kind of like, now you're dealing with all these things that you thought were true about you or just about society or about life, and that's not the case. So then what do you do with that, right? So in my experience, most Black men kind of stuff it down and you know, don't really deal with it, don't really talk about it, and then it just comes to a head, and then, you know, before you know it, they're can't work, like totally just have all types of depression symptoms. And you know, we can pray about it, which definitely helps, but also there's help out there. And a lot of men, from my experience again, and don't really seek the help. So to find out what's really going on, why am I feeling this way? What, you know, why don't I want to get up in the morning? Why don't I feel motivated to go to work? Why can't I spend time with my family? Why can't I hold down the job? You know, why am I drinking so much? Why am I not getting sleep? Why am I sleeping too much? So getting back to the root of the issue is you have to take care of yourself. And if you don't have a sense of identity, a lot of times it can, what's the word I'm looking for? It can feel coming on in a sense. And if, you know, if it's in your bloodlines, that's a whole another subject, but it can just put you in a position where you don't know what's going on, and you don't really know how to access help, or you do, but you're too prideful to do it. And then it, you know, it just spirals you down a slippery slope. So I would suggest, again, you know,
thank you for
when you
that.
feel like, I'm sorry.
No, continue. Go ahead. You said when you feel like, I didn't know. I thought you were done.
Well, I get into there. I didn't know if you had another question. I'll stop right there.
Is, and I know it's a loaded question that probably can't be answered in this forum. It's like, well, how does one find his identity? You, as you're growing up, and I know you said, all of you said, you know, you glean from your brother, or, you know, the kids that you hung around, the good kids versus the bad kids. But like, as you become an adult and as you come into your own, identify, like, how do you know who you are, and then what does that look like in the grand scheme of things of living in the world? Start that process. What does that process look like of finding yourself or knowing yourself?
It can look different for everybody. Quick example. Let's just say you grow up with a group of people, right? And you kind of all identify from similar backgrounds, similar family situations, similar economic statuses. So you're kind of placed in the same type of area. So you grow up, and then you kind of see the world the same way, right? And then as you get older and you start experiencing more in life, or maybe you go off to college or this place or that place, you start to learn more about yourself. And that's what I mean, like discovering yourself in the process. So as you discover yourself, some people that you may have grew up with or were friends with at times, like they're discovering themselves in their own way, and then you grow apart. And doing that, like life, in my opinion, life's experiences help you to develop. They help you to develop the sense of who you are, and your sense of self. So, you know, we all will eventually get to that point, in my opinion, but we all have different experience. So we all see life totally different at times. So in doing that, we all have a different outlook at times. Sometimes we see the same thing, but as far as how we develop ourselves is, in my opinion, is through our experiences and really doing some self-discovery, you know, finding out, you know, why do you do the things you do? Why did you do the things you do? Finding out about your history and your background, about your family, that can kind of give you some information in reference to why you do some of the things you do, like your bloodlines, interacting with people and things of that nature. So then you can start to see the full picture of who you think you want to be and where you're coming from. So, you know, we paint a picture of who we want to be, right? We see, like Will was saying, and same thing Devin was saying, we see people on TV, athletes or whatever, and as a child, I mean, I remember saying, oh, I want to go play football, I want to play basketball. We didn't really know what it take to get there, but that's what I wanted to be. So you see these people, or these people, you know, these people in these positions, and you don't really know what it takes to get there. So through experiences, it helps you to learn, okay, yeah, this is not my reality. I need to figure out, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? And I think, just again, back to life experiences, it helps you to self-identify and find out who you are. So I would sum it up as saying experiences is really the big teacher for me, in my opinion, to help me find out, to help me know who I am, my experiences in life.
Gotcha. But okay, I understand that, and I'm not saying you're wrong playing devil's advocate now.
No, that's fine.
And this is for the whole room, not just between you and I, Montegas. So experiences shape your identity. Basically, in a nutshell, that's what you were saying. It helps shape your identity. But do any of you believe that there is a systematic, what's the word I'm looking for, question set up to hinder the development of the identity of the Black man? I don't know about other countries because I haven't been to other countries. But do you believe there's some type of hindrance specifically hinder the Black man's ability himself as such, a Black man?
Can I?
Controversial.
Okay. Can I answer that one?
Answer. Go ahead, Devin.
Okay. So I think just more so in the whole identity thing. I mean, I can definitely give an instance of, I was an athlete. I played football. My identity was wrapped around being an athlete for a long time. Since I was a younger kid, I wanted to play sports. That's all I wanted to do. And, going to high school, going to college and be able to, compete at that level, it was important for me to maintain that image. I wanted to be, what I had seen on TV, what the jocks and everything like that, somebody who goes to class late, be the life of the party, all that stuff that, I was comfortable being. And it wasn't until that was taken away from me where it was kind of like, I hit that moment like, I can't do the things that I once did and the things I was once comfortable doing. So what do I do next? And I think for a lot of young people, they don't make it to the point where they're able to, elongate their careers as far as what they want to do. I mean, for agenda for our community, sometimes it seems as though in order for you to be someone of importance, you have to either be an athlete, you have to be a rapper, or you have to sell drugs, because those are the three things that sometimes it's just catered to us to say, okay, these people have what they show us in commercials. If you want to see somebody that's important that looks like us, they probably have to be rapping lyrics or they have to be dribbling a basketball. There's no commercials for lawyers. There's no commercials for black car salesmen. I don't see any commercials where when they're selling cars about Mazda and stuff like that, I don't see any black-owned business owners that have their own commercials. But when they cater to us, it's what are we comfortable with seeing? When I turn on the TV and I see Steph Curry or I see LeBron James, I'm comfortable with seeing that. You know what I mean? Because that fits into what they want us to believe that that's all we could be. And I believe that for a lot of us, for me, for a long time, I was comfortable with just being that until that was taken away from me. And I had to realize that, are you more than that? What else is behind everything that you're saying that you are? And I believe that was that moment when I had to really just take that step and say, you know what? Is there more to you?
You know what? What was the last word? It cut out.
I said, I had to ask myself, is there more to me? Is that all I'm set here to be? I stopped playing football at 22 years old. So if I wasn't comfortable with an identity from 22 to the end of my days, then that means I lived a long life of being miserable.
I understand. So, anybody else want to answer that question? They believe oppression set up to hinder the identity development of Black men? I specifically, and I'm saying that from a media perspective, like you said, there are certain images that are put out there that says, hey, this is what a Black man is. This is who he should be. And if he's successful, this is what he looks like. The same for women. Hey, this is what size this woman should be. If she is amazing and she wants to be a boss, that means to be neck roll. That means she has to throw drinks on people. That means she has to be a side chick. There are lots of images out there that says this is how a Black woman is supposed to be. This is how a Black man is supposed to be. Do you think that that is a system set up basically or hinder the true process of as a Black? If nobody else wants to answer that question, though, I have a second question I want to ask you guys. take on that again?
I do believe there is an agenda for those things to be put out in mainstream media. I mean, of course, it's done very subliminal. You know, it's not out there to say. It's not like the old days where there used to be Bojangles out there tap dancing. You know, of course, it's not. That's not how they're marketing anymore. But at the same time, I believe that it is a way for, you know, to grab our attention. You know, what is going to grab our attention? They don't put the Cosbys on TV anymore for a reason. You know what I mean? Those shows don't make it, you know, through the the Positive Family type of, you know, that whole, you know, systematic of the Family Matters, and those shows are not in flux right now. You know, if you want to see you know, the black, you know, man or woman, or if you want to see black families, you have to turn on shows that are, you know, it shows a lot of dilemma, it shows arguing, it shows conflict, and that's the way that they're basically marketing us. You know what I mean? It's there's not a lot of shows like Blackish on TV anymore that cater to, you know, the positivity that we can see in our community.
Got you. So thank you guys for that. I want to take this in a little different direction. This is just for the women. This probably is a selfish kind of question that I have going on next, but women want to know. I talk to women all the time. We always, you know, women get together, we talk, we converse, and usually what we end up conversing about is men. So one question, or the underlying question to a lot of the conversations about men, more specifically black men, is where are our men? Where are you guys? Like, and then more specific to that, where are the good men? I'm trying to figure out how to. So for the women that are watching, does the good black man still exist? And if so, take it away. I'm telling you, I hear all the time. Women say, no more good men. I have always dealt with da-da-da-da-da.
I believe there are, you know, good black men out there. I know some, you know, I knew, huh?
Where are they?
They're everywhere. You know, I know some, I know good ones, and they're there. You know, it's maybe sometimes that somebody's not ready for that, you know. I'm laughing because I'm sorry, my wife texted me. She's talking about I got one. All
right, wife, I see you. Where'd you find them? It's for the women. I'm doing this for the women who want to know.
Seriously though. And I don't think they're hard to find. I just think that, you know, somebody has to, quote unquote, found, and vice versa for women also. You know, when you find a good man, what do you do? You know, what are you doing with that man? And vice versa. When a man finds a good woman, what is he doing with the woman? So I don't think it's as simple as they're not out there. I definitely think they're out there. I mean, you know, it depends where you're at in your life, you know, to be able to accept that man for who he is, or accept that woman for who they are, and grow together. But I don't think it's a shortage or anything. I mean, people say that, but I don't subscribe to that. So on the side of men or women, I just don't. And I just think when you know where you're at in your life and you know what you want, then you will come in contact with what you want when that time is right. So, and you have to be able to be aware of that when it does happen. And so, and even if you get a good man, that doesn't mean that good man's for you. So, you know, it may not work out. That doesn't mean he's a bad man. It just means y'all didn't work out, and vice versa. So, you know, I think it's, I mean, that's a simple answer to, in my opinion. You know, I think they're out here, and, you know, once people find them, they have to realize it and recognize it. But there's a lot of people that play games too. But for the most part, I think it's good men out here. So, and good women. Just gotta know when you see one. Huh?
say Dan Boo in the comment section who was watching said, first, let me say this. Women are looking for good black men in all the wrong places. Well, Dan, where's the right places? I'm telling you, my ladies want to know where the right places are, because if I come across another post that says, I'm waiting for my king, I'm waiting for him to put a ring on it, I'm waiting, the love of my life, like, women I meet have put their entire lives on hold in hopes of finding this good man and then living life with them, you know, letting life start once they find them. So specifically for women, that is an imbalance that we have to deal with, because you have to realize, like, you need to be whole by yourself before trying to go be in a relationship with this good black man. Because, like, how unfair is that to say, hey, you're going to make me able to live my life once I come in contact with you? That you can't ask that of somebody. You can't require that of somebody. So I know that's the thing that women have to deal with. But then when you start looking at statistics and stuff, like, are in jail, and I'm saying all of them are in jail, or the men who want black men in heterosexual relationships, they say all the black men are gay. Or phenomenon where it's okay, and after living in Atlanta for 6 years, where I think they say it's a 10-to-1 ratio between men and women, 10 women to 1 man, there's this phenomenon of being a side chick. So, like, where are the black men that don't these categories? Because that's what most women want to know. And then, like Montiga says, like, when we find a good one, how do we know? Like, what are the qualities and the characteristics of a good man? So what should women be looking for when they find this good man? Because I think a lot of times definitions and lists for and qualifications for our good men are unrealistic, and like that person doesn't really exist. So do you guys have any pointers to modify this list of what it means to be an actual good man, what that means in your book as a man?
Just real quick, can I add something to what you were saying as far as, like, I'll say, I'm going to preface this by saying men and women, we have a quote unquote checklist, right? You know, if you ask somebody, what do you like in a man, or what do you like in a woman, they have this unrealistic checklist a lot of times. And so in having that, it actually narrows your quote unquote man or woman pool down, because you have, oh, they have to have a 6-figure job, they have to do this, they have to have no kids, da, 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 da. And to some people, that checklist is what a definition of a good man or a good woman is. How many people are you going to come in contact with that actually mark everything off that checklist? So in having those unrealistic expectations, it almost puts yourself at a disadvantage, because you're thinking that, oh, I'm going to meet this guy, he's going to sweep me off my feet and he's going to check every box. Well, what if he checks 6 out of the 10 boxes? Is he not good enough? You know, so those are questions you have to ask yourself. What is realistic to you? Because I can sit here and say, yeah, I wanted my wife to be X, Y, and Z and all these 10 things, but the reality is none of us are that. So what do? You just be single, but until you, that, you know, when you say your king comes and sweeps you off your feet? No. The unrealistic expectations is what would kill me with men and women, because you see it. I mean, and I used to be the same way, but the reality is that's just not reality. You're going to get, if you find somebody that you can connect with, you're going to get probably most of the things you want in the boxes, but not everything. But that doesn't make them less of a man or a woman, you know? So just wanted to add that in there.
You heard it here first. Nobody is that list that you have, ladies. Okay, so let's start there. And I mean, do you even meet the qualifications to be able to receive and or accept and or partner with this man that you've created on this list? Like, would he want you, in layman's terms? Like, would he want you? of a man on this paper, but okay, say you get all that. Does that man want you? So ladies, and like Dan, I'm gonna follow up with Dan's too. Dan said that women have a fairy tale notion of a good black man. I agree. I think there is a fairy tale notion about what a good black man is, and just people in general. And I think it's time for us, which is why I like the forums like that, like this. It's time for us to really get real with ourselves. Like, what matters to us, what's important to us, what works for us, what doesn't work for us. And that's the people collectively, and that's also as an individual. Like, as for me in my house, this works for me. And then being okay standing on that. I think sometimes we get so caught up in and it's a psychological thing, but I'm not actually talking about the psychological thing, but what people call groupthink. We get so caught up in like trying to be like the masses and trying to, you know, just follow the crowd and stay in and let everybody like us, that we forget that there are just some things that don't work. There are some things that you should question, like, hey, if everybody's over there jumping off on the bridge, like, I don't want to jump off on the bridge, but everybody's doing it, should I do it too? So I think that as Black people, as a collective, we have some soul searching to do when it comes to our identity, as well as when it comes to how we relate to one another and how we are in relationship with one another. So thank you for that, Montegas. I want to hop over into something that I talked about the other day about modeling. I want to specifically ask Devin and or Will this, but Devin first. What is your idea about modeling? And modeling basically is seeing something, or seeing, as a Black boy, you seeing a Black man do this, you know, and this is what it means to have this. This is what it means to be a Black man. What does it mean when you have for you that is not necessarily the best representation, and you don't have the emotional vocabulary to like explain your feelings and explain your emotions? I think a lot of times women, let me start from again, hold on. Women say, talk. Men are emotionless, you can't get anything out of them. But I learned from a conversation that I had with Devin that a lot of times men are not raised with an articulate emotional vocabulary to express themselves. So when that is not modeled for you, what is your solution for that? Like, what is your solution, like, when your modeling is not adding up to it is? Does that make sense, Devin?
Yeah, so I guess just to add to, so you're saying that, you know, what is it that, I guess, for men, like, we model the behaviors of the people that we've seen, and how does that tie into our I guess, our emotions and how we are attached to our emotions?
Yes, and then also I'm saying, like, for future generations, like, when you realize that there's a glitch in the system and something isn't working, like, how do we then go back and teach our young people, like, it's okay to express yourself, it's okay to, you know, be emotional, when you've come from a long line of modeling that says this is not what a man is. A man is not emotional. Right.
I think that is one of the biggest battles that I think most of us men face. Because, you know, from a young age, we are embedded in the whole manhood, masculinity, you know, the whole spiel that, you know, when you see, I look at, even when I take my son to the park, and, you know, and I've, you know, started to realize this as I was younger, you know, we want the masculinity to override everything. You know, we see parents at the park, and when their daughter falls, it's a whole different story. We run to their aid, we pick them up, we kiss them boo-boos, we do all of that. But when we have a son, you know, they fall down, they start crying, and it's, hey man, get up, come on man, what you crying for? Come on, you tough, what you doing? You know what I mean? And we don't want to cater to the side of anything soft. And I think for me, I would use myself as an example that, you know, growing up, like I said, I didn't have a lot of males in my life to even model, you know, being open, or being, you know, being emotional, or having feelings and knowing what those feelings were. You know, most of the time, if I heard an emotion from a man, it was anger. You know what I mean? I'm mad. I'm pissed off, and it wasn't, you know, anything that there wasn't more to it. You know, it wasn't anything under that. It was just in the moment, I'm mad, I'm pissed off, or I'm angry. And so a lot of times as young men, and we model that, we cater into that same vocabulary. You know, anytime that something arises that doesn't go our way, or something that happens to us that makes us, you know, sad, we channel that with anger. And it's not, you know, there isn't another word for it, because angry fits it and it fits it well. So that way we can use that word to just have our way with it however we want it to, and it fits every category. So it wasn't until I really started searching, like I know me, I'm sensitive, you know, and a lot of people, when you hear the word sensitive, they think soft. And, you know, I look at it like skin. You know, if you say that I have sensitive skin, you're not saying that your skin is soft, you're saying that your skin is easily irritated. And I know that I have a lot of triggers that easily irritates me, so I understand that I'm sensitive. I have sensitivities. And, you know, that was just me understanding the definition of the word, and then being able to make my instance from there. So I was like, okay, I can accept being sensitive knowing that I know what it means.
How does that make you feel in a group if you were to say that? Like, I'm sure now you probably mature where you get among other men, but when you're teaching youth, like, if you said, you know what, I'm just sensitive.
Right.
And how do we teach them that that's okay to say, hey, instead of just I'm angry or I'm sensitive, like, I mean, I'm angry, say I'm sensitive or I'm disappointed or I'm sad. Like, how do we teach that to our youth? Our black boys. How do we teach that?
I think the biggest thing is looking under the surface. And, you know, for a lot of times, yes, we have anger, but it stems from different things. And yes, it may come out as anger. Yeah, we may act out angrily, or we may act out violently, which is a link to our anger, but it's under the surface that causes those things. Sometimes the feeling of being unwanted, you know, the feeling of not having somebody actually care about the things that you want them to care about. And, you know, we take that, but it comes out and we portray it as anger. When really, sometimes, you know, we're disappointed, sometimes we're hurt. You know, sometimes there's a lot of things under that surface that we don't really know at the time that's what it is. But when we allow them to peel back those layers and say, hey, man, look, you know, I know you were upset about this that happened this morning. Like, I tell some of my kids, I give them an instance, you know, if your mom was dropping you off to school, right? And on the way to school, she was yelling at you and telling you everything that you didn't do that morning. She's telling you didn't make your bed, you didn't wash the dishes, you forgot to mop the floor last night. So the whole car ride you get to school, you're hearing that. And then now when you get to school, somebody come into the classroom and the first thing they say, man, you ugly, man, look at you, your breath stain, whatever. And then you punch them in the mouth. It wasn't that what they said that really got you to that point. It was all that stuff that happened before you even got there, the things that was under the surface or behind all of that caused you to really act out. Because, you know, a lot of times people don't see that. And they don't see your, you know, they don't see your emotions and your feelings. And we block that stuff off until when it really does come out, it comes out in a way where it can get us into a lot of trouble. And also, it's just, it's anger. It's anger.
So, black men to be emotional.
I mean, embrace it. I think, you know, that was one of the things, like, I mean, I'm not afraid to cry. I'm not afraid to do any of that, because at the end of the day, I'm a human. You know, and I tell people that's a basic function of being a human. Just like I got to poop, the same way I got to cry. When I feel it coming, if I try to hold it in, it's going to come out when I don't want it to come out. So if I don't want to, you know, be out here crying in the middle of the street when, you know, something triggers that, I better cry when I need to. You know, so I think that's one of the parts that just going back and clearing that up and letting kids know that that's basic human function. Your eyes wouldn't tear up if they weren't supposed to do that.
All right, I like that. So I'm gonna say one more time. It is okay, you know, black men. Okay, anybody that's watching that, it is okay to show your emotions and be emotional. And being emotional does not equal soft, feminine, or, you know, all these things that we tie to the idea of being emotional. And then women on the flip side too, I have to go to my ladies. It's okay for you to be emotional too and not be so hard. Like, It's okay for us to show who we are. It's okay to show our full range of emotions. And it's okay to be human. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. It's okay to be angry, to be disappointed, to be, whatever your emotions are, feel all of them all the time. But it's okay for you to feel the full spectrum of your emotions. I want you to know that. Like, we're gonna go on record saying that. It's okay. You wanted to add to that about modeling as a child, like, and or change the conversation about, with young people specifically, about what it means to be, a Black man. People, I look at my kids now that I work with, and they are just, I don't want to say lost, but they are confused in a lot of ways. So is there any information or advice you could offer to young people, young Black boys trying to find their way into manhood?
Making sure I understood you correctly, because it was a little choppy. You said advice to young boys who want their way into manhood?
Who are trying to find into Black manhood.
I mean, the same advice to young men I would give to older men. I think it all, for me, everything goes back to knowing who you are and knowing your history and knowing your identity. I think a lot of times we allow people in society to define things for us, because I think when someone can give you a definition of what that item is, basically they can control the person you become, such as it with fairy tales and Atlanta Housewives and all these different things we look at and model ourselves after. We become that person because the condition we place ourselves in, whether we like it or not, that condition also lives within us. As even if you observe too much violence, you become used to it. If you watch all the gay stuff on TV, you get numb to it. But if you live in a society where you were, like, say, the old Black society where somebody shot themselves, we knew it wasn't us. But nowadays, you got to ask, who is it? So the identity comes from the culture and the people and the definitions that we define as a people. It just, now we want to be on the other side of the fence so bad, and with integration and all these different things, it's hard to define that, because everybody has a different definition of what is and what isn't, and no more do we have a cultural definition of who we are and what we do or what we don't do. So now we eat everything. Everything is out there. And when I was growing up, girls didn't dance on girls. That was like, oh, hell no. But nowadays, it's a normal thing that we do. So the definition changes over time as people change over time. Like, at one point, churches used to help the community, but now churches, it seems, are more monetary than it is spirituality for the community. And so that affects our definitions of who we are. My advice to young men is to understand who you are from a simplistic point of view, because life isn't complex. It's only complex when we try to make it what we want it to be. But if we understand the basics of who we are, based on a historical perspective, because history is 2020, and that's the only thing in life that's 2020. So if you could apply some old principles to modern day times with the help of an old mentor, I think that would help a lot of young people. But choosing a mature mentor, but just because someone is older, that doesn't mean that they're mature. Just like, we were talking about where you find a good man and a good woman, that's always been a question over the period of time. Because a good man and a good woman, if you put a good man or a good woman in front of one or the other, they wouldn't identify, because they're basing, like the previous gentleman said, they're basing their things off fairy tales. If you value the item or the situation more than you value the man, then you're going to overlook the man to get to the situation you want to be in. So you end up accepting half a man or half a woman. And the theory goes, in a Black neighborhood, half of a man is better than no man. But who in the hell where the hell you get that from? That's a depression. You see what I'm saying? And so we have all these definitions and thought processes that we live by that are not necessarily true to ourselves and what our culture represents. You know what I mean? So and then as I know, as a kid, I grew up asking questions I never received answers for, but people gave the best answers they could. But just like, look, if you understand the laws of physics and the laws of mathematics, you understand that ties you directly to God. For instance, what goes up comes down. So the theory is in the black culture is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That means what's going up is going to come down. That's why they say don't burn bridges, because the same people you see going up, you're going to see coming down. So if you understand that the mathematics and everything that you should be learning is tied to yourself and God, and it applies to the way you live your life, the math then is not just something you do to get a job. Math is something that represents you and understanding what life is. So that's what I'm saying. We have to change our definitions of what is and what isn't, so that we understand ourselves better and our relationship to God and the earth. You understand what I'm saying?
So, but what it sounds like is, hold on, let me pause you. So what it sounds like to me is you're saying that we need to know our history. Man, black woman, black family in America, our history has been stripped from us. Like this long lineage that we could trace back. I'm sure we could. It's a little more difficult to trace our lineage back when we were brought to a country and we were stripped from the history and the heritage that we had in one country and brought over here and forced to live in a culture that we knew nothing about, and forced to basically have free labor amongst people that were not our people. So I understand you saying we must know our history in order to evolve, in order to be able to model correctly, in order to be able to a stronger community. But my question, this is probably going to be my final question that I'm going to ask tonight, and then we're going to do a part 2 to this. But my question is, first, is 2 questions. Have been transported over here, typically, but the generations, and I think that's still embedded in our DNA, some places, of being enslaved. Is, have we been miseducated in America for what it means to be a black man, a black woman, a black family? That's the first question. And second of all, are we still enslaved? Enslaved mentally, enslaved physically, enslaved spiritually. Even though, you know, the Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, all that stuff has been signed, enslaved as a people, as a whole, collectively. So those are my 2 final questions I want to ask you guys. First, have we been miseducated as black people in America? Yay or nay? And secondly, are we still enslaved? Mentally, spiritually, physically? I want to take it as. So you guys give your final hoo-ha's for me, or hoorahs for me.
Anybody can answer?
The floor is yours.
Are we still enslaved? Hell yeah. Slavery never is left. I mean, it just changed the way it looked. I mean, let's look at it like this. The mass incarceration of black people equates to free labor. And who represents most of the people that's in jail? It's the black people. But do we make up the majority % of the population? I don't think so. So looking at how the system And look around the world, as I said previously, you always see black people in a position of servitude, not necessarily in a position of power. You will see individuals who they've allowed to climb the ladder and achieve certain things of power, but not a lot of, not groups, not a lot of people. So to me, the slavery still exists. The answer is always yes. And to me, you will always be enslaved. Like I said before, when someone else defines who you are, how your kids are educated, if you're praying to the same God as the people that's oppressing you, so who is God supposed to answer? The person that's putting the noose around your neck, or the person that's trying to stay alive? So to me, you have to separate yourself mentally, and just like you have a Chinatown, just like you have different cultures within you have to have a nation basically within a nation. And so we have to create our own our own standards, our own way of doing, our own way of being. And that way, in that sense, you're not enslaved in the sense of where you can control the definition, where you can control the outcomes, where you can control how your kids are raised. And some of us do a good job, but overall we are horrible at it.
Wow. We've been educated, and are we still enslaved?
I mean, I definitely believe that each man, or each woman, or that basically is what you buy into. I feel like we're all responsible for our own knowledge and everything that we put into ourselves, because at the point of understanding them, it is our responsibility and our job to educate ourselves. And I mean, at the same time, when we go and look back at our ancestry, I believe in Africa, I don't believe they were calling each other black. That's a color. I don't think that when we were in Africa before we were brought over here that we were calling each other black. I believe we just knew who we are, and I don't think it was a color thing. Black is a color. So at the same time, when we were brought here, of course, everything that we know now, we learned. It was learned and it was passed down. And so at some point, we have to get an understanding of ourselves before we can continue to live in a way of which we, create our own enslavement, I believe. Because yes, there's systematic things, but it's also the understanding of ourselves. We continue to live a certain way and expect different results. And at a certain point, we have to understand that we are in control of our destiny if we want to be. But a lot of times we rather depend on somebody else to do it for us, because it's systematic, and it can be simplified and made simple that we can have the things that we believe is of importance, if it's monetary and possession based. But for us, our freedom has to come from knowing that what we do every day, or what we do is giving us some type of fulfillment. And it boils down to just being and living in purpose. So I mean, yes, we can, in a sense, be still enslaved, but I believe that's a mental choice. I don't believe it's an actual physical thing of being enslaved, because of course there are people who are taking advantage of the things that are in front of them, and some of us we can't, due to the systematic, the things that are in place. But if we choose, like I said, there's a lot of people that's incarcerated that have more knowledge than the people who are out here on the street. And because they're at a point where they have no choice in order to keep themselves alive, they have to free their minds from what they've known. And, the real test is when they get out of that environment, are they going to continue that same path? So I believe that we create our own enslavement, because once we are enslaved, then we can't do anything else but think and read and do things like that. It shouldn't have to take that for our people to get into that point to where I have to now learn knowledge and know myself. But it should come to a point where we should want that regardless of where we're at in our lives.
Okay. Thank you for that. Montegus, do you have anything to say on that? Those two questions?
Yeah, I heard you. I was talking. I forgot to unmute myself. What was the first question one more time?
The first question is, have we been miseducated? Like as Black people, as Black men, you know, have we been miseducated? A Black man or a Black woman or a Black family. And then second, are we still enslaved mentally?
I'll take the first question. I believe in most cases we have.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. People, I think Will had mentioned it earlier, like, you know, you're told to grow up and get a job. You're not told to grow up and be a CEO, own your own company. A lot of times they just kind of get a job, maintain and live above water for the most part. You know, I think that's a part of miseducation. You know, we are kind of ingrained to just do enough to get by or try to get by versus wanting more out of life, wanting more out of society. That's like I said, part of the miseducation. I think if you know, people like ourselves actually get in the community in which I'm pretty sure the other gentlemen are out in the community saying, hey, you know, look at me, I'm doing this, I'm doing it. You can do the same thing for our younger generation. Then they'll understand that it is people out here that are doing more than just, you know, a typical 9-to-5 job for 20 years. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. So let me get that straight. It's not that anything is wrong with that. I'm just saying that that's what we're ingrained to do. And that, you know, I think that when you step outside the box, that's when you get a lot of pushback from your own people. Like, what are you doing? You know, you shouldn't do that. You're going to fail. And then that's where all the negativity comes. But if you don't believe in yourself, then yeah, you can't step out that box. You don't need other people to believe in your dream and your goals for you to be successful. So I definitely think, yeah, it is a miseducation because it's too many of us that have the ability to be more, but just choose not to be because of their own insecurities or their own lack of understanding of what their life could really be and what their potential in life could be if they actually put a little bit of effort into it. That out there.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for doing this with me. And I definitely want to have a part 2 because I have some more follow-up questions that I want to ask you guys. Also made some bullet points so we can kind of summarize what this whole entire thing was when it comes to, because the subtitle of this was Understanding and Revering the Black Man. And from these 3 Black men, we have learned that, 1, it's okay to be emotional as a Black man. You can express yourself, feel your full range of emotions. Secondly, you must, to truly know yourself and define what a man is, you must know your history. That's what I heard from the collective. You must know your history, and also you must know the thing that you are leveling up or that you're defining yourself by. You must be very clear about what that is, who that is, if that's God, if that's your grandfather that you're modeling yourself after. You have to be very clear about what it is that you're modeling yourself after. Black is a color and not an identity. So I've never heard that quite like that before. So just let that marinate. Black is a color and not an identity. And then good men are out there, women. So, and it's all about where you're looking and the fairy tales that you're believing in. So good men are out there, here to stay. Also, there are some places of miseducation and still enslavement, but overall, I have a very high expectation and compassion for and reverence for and love for the Black man. Like, I love Black men. I do. Like, there's nothing more nothing higher in my mind when I think of, you know, what is the epitome of man when I think about the Black man. I just want you guys to know that. I want the people to know that, you know, on this forum and people that are paying attention, like, Black men are everything. And I'm not discrediting other men, but I am going to give space, time to revere and to celebrate Black men as a collective, as a whole, with all of our idiosyncrasies that we have going on in our communities and our stuff that we push under the rug and we don't want to talk about. As a whole, and you guys need to be celebrated, you need to be applauded, and we thank you. And I'm speaking on behalf of all other women and all the other children. We thank you. The backbone of adversity, sometimes adversity that leads to your deaths. We thank you for still standing strong and still saying, you know what? Water, like the old people used to say. I'm still going to stand in my truth. I'm still going to stand in my identity. And that, and not only that, we reverence that, we follow that. As women, we follow that. We follow that kinghood that you guys carry just naturally. So I appreciate all of you guys coming on here today and sharing, you know, just a small piece of what it is that you know about being a Black man, what it is that you've experienced, and hopefully this forum has touched and or helped someone. Before I go, I want to give you guys the floor and the space to say, you know, what you have going on. If you have anything that, like, books or to get people to join your organization, anything you have going on, I'm going to give you the floor where people can find out more information about you and what you have going on in life. So, Devin, if you would go ahead and tell us what you have going on with Inspire Youth or anything coming up that we can support you with.
Definitely thank you for the opportunity. Before we do it, I really do appreciate it. I feel like these are important, even though, like you said, it may reach one person out there, and it may just be something that can be done more in a bigger platform. So I do appreciate the opportunity. But yes, I recently started a mentoring agency here in West Palm Beach, Florida. It's called Inspire Youth Mentoring Services. It is contractual based. It is a nonprofit, but it is just an initiative to help kids with the communication aspect of emotions and interpersonal communication, problem-solving strategies. It is curriculum-based, so it is a curriculum for therapeutic group mentoring. It's also a curriculum for life skills, and there's also a curriculum based on the initiative to prevent bullying and bringing awareness to that as well. So if you guys do want to, check out the website, it's inspireyouth.com with an S, Inspire Youth. And also we have a page on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is Inspire Youth with an S, and Facebook is at Inspire Youth Mentoring. So if you guys want to just check it out, and like I said, however you guys feel as though you can help, just check it out before you decide if you want to jump into it. But definitely looking for more resources and more people that want to be involved. And I do appreciate all those that have supported me to this point. And that's my spiel. Thanks again.
All right. And then wait, one thing. What's the age group that you mentor?
The age group that I work with is from young as 10 to about 21. I even work with some of those that are still transitioning into adulthood. I don't believe we're truly adults until we reach that age of past 20. So I do, love to mentor those that are in transition. Like I said, it's also developing life skills and what to expect after you get out your parents' house or you make that transition and that leap.
Okay, gotcha. So you guys check out Inspire Youth with an S, inspireyouth.com. All right, Montegas. Go ahead.
Yeah.
There you go.
I would like to say thank you also. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for inviting me to just be on here with these other men to just, give our opinion and our experience in life as being a Black man. Furthermore, the name of my private practice is Starting Point Counseling Services. That's starting point with an E on the end of point. I have a Facebook. It's at Starting Point Counseling. I have a Instagram. It's Starting Point Counseling. And I also have a Twitter page. It's SP Counsel. Website is www.startingpoint with an E, of course, counseling.com. serve, like I said, I serve Palm Beach County, families, individuals, and, you know, pretty much it. You know, I'm here to inspire self-independence, restore families, and empower communities. And that's what we're doing in Palm Beach County.
Awesome. And Will, tell us what you have going on. Contact with you.
Well, I'd like to say also thank you. I appreciate the time and the fact that brother men can come together and have a positive conversation. That's always a good thing. That's always a highlight for me anytime we come together, whether it be food or conversation or whatnot. I have a general construction company called Critical Path Construction, located here in Riviera Beach. We do anything from residential to commercial, painting, ground up, additions, and I have a website called criticalpathgc.net. That's critical, CRITICAL, path, PATH, GC.net. And thanks, Nicole, for having me, and I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Of course, that's your thank you. I mean, your thank you.
Nicole, I did leave out one thing that's happening in the community also.
Say it again.
I said I did leave out one thing that's going on in the community for, you know, fathers, and but I'm part of the Fatherhood Speaker Series.
Okay.
It's presented by the Go-To Therapist, and well, 5 of us speaking in different areas of South Florida. I have West Palm, and then the other gentlemen, they have different areas like Broward, Miami, and we're just going to be speaking on our experiences as being fathers. My particular topic is September 29th, the Urban League of Palm Beach, and I will be speaking on fatherhood, divorce, and blended families. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you guys want to, it's all over my Facebook page and Instagram and Twitter also. So if you guys want to check that out, it's the Fatherhood Speaker Series.
Email me the flyer if you have a flyer for it and the deets.
Yeah.
And then I'll put it on the social calendar for the Palm Beach Beat as well.
Definitely, I'll get that to you.
Thank you. And finally, you guys, available. This is my book. This is one of my books. I've published 4 books. This is my book, I'm Doing This to Me. It talks about how taking responsibility and telling the truth changes your life. And then also, this is something new. Oh, this is my baby. I don't know if you can see this, but it's called Audio Visionary Volume 1. So I actually have my very first motivational CD out where there are certain subjects that I talk about on here. And then after each subject, I give affirmations for that subject. So you guys can check out my website, nicole.org. Inbox me on Facebook. And if you want me to, if you're in Palm Beach County, I can meet up with you. I can drop off these items, or if you're anywhere else in the world, I can ship them off to you. So again, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Protecting and Healing the Black Psyche, understanding and revering the Black man. Thank you for tuning into this edition. I look forward to having more virtual forums like this, because we need to have these open dialogues, open conversations in our communities, even if they're hard dialogues and they're hard, because hey, if you don't know, people perish for lack of knowledge. So hey, let's get the knowledge, let's, educate ourselves, and let's just live life and evolve. Like ultimately, that's what I want us to do. I want us to live life, evolve, and be the highest expressions of ourselves. So until next time, you guys check out thepalmbeachbeat.com, because that's where you can find the replay of this video if you missed any of it. Thepalmbeachbeat.com. You're going to click the link that says live event, and you'll be able to of this video. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, panelists, for a challenge for you guys to come on and talk and didn't know what we were going to talk about. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, I'm going to end the broadcast. You guys have a good night. Bye-bye.